You don't need to pay the cruise line an extra $2,000 for a junior suite just because you want a little more space. With the 7 simple tricks I'm about to share, you can turn even the smallest, cheapest inside cabin into a 5-star hotel room, with comfort and organization that rivals those expensive suites. The total cost of everything on this list? Less than $50. But the comfort and peace of mind they bring? Worth thousands. If you want your cabin to feel like a living space instead of a storage closet, grab a pen, because you're going to want to write this down. I worked on cruise ships for 7 years, and during that time I lived in cabins smaller than most people's walk-in closets. But here's what I learned. Space isn't about square footage, it's about smart use of every single inch. The passengers who struggled the most weren't the ones in small cabins. They were the ones who didn't know how to organize them. And trust me, after spending years watching travelers unpack, I've seen every mistake in the book. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 affordable items that will instantly double your usable space. These aren't gimmicks or luxury add-ons. They're practical tools that crew members have been using for years. And the best part? You can pick up most of them before you leave home for less than $10 each. So let's start with the first one. And this is probably the single most powerful space saver you'll ever use on a cruise. Number 1 is the over-the-door shoe organizer. Now I know what you're thinking. Shoes? That's it? But hold on, because this isn't just for footwear. This is your secret weapon for turning wasted vertical space into the most useful storage area in your entire cabin. Most cruise cabins have a narrow bathroom door and a narrow closet door. Both of these doors are doing absolutely nothing for you right now. But the moment you hang one of these organizers, you've just created 20 or 30 individual pockets that can hold almost anything. Here's how passengers over 60 typically use their cabins. They arrive, they unpack their suitcase onto the bed, and then they spend the rest of the week digging through piles of clothes and toiletries trying to find what they need. It's frustrating. It's messy, and it wastes precious vacation time. But when you use a shoe organizer, suddenly you have a designated spot for sunscreen, medications, glasses, charging cables, hats, snacks, and yes, even a few pairs of shoes if you want. I remember one couple in their late 60s who boarded with 3 large suitcases for a 2-week cruise. They were stressed before they even opened the cabin door. I suggested they hang 2 shoe organizers, one on the bathroom door and one on the closet. Within 20 minutes, their entire cabin was transformed. No more clutter on the desk, no more bags on the floor. Everything had a home. The wife told me later it was the first cruise where she didn't spend half her trip looking for her reading glasses. And here's the insider tip. Go for the clear pocket organizers, not the fabric ones. That way you can see exactly what's inside each pocket without having to dig around. It's a small detail, but it makes a huge difference when you're rushing to get ready for dinner or an excursion. Now let's move to number 2. And this one might surprise you because most people don't even realize it's an option. Magnetic hooks. Cruise ship cabins are made of metal. That means almost every wall, every surface, even the ceiling in some cases, is magnetic. And yet 90% of passengers never take advantage of this. They try to use adhesive hooks, or they just pile things on the desk and dresser. But magnetic hooks are a game changer, because they let you use all that empty wall space without damaging anything. You can hang your hat, your lanyard with your cruise card, your bag, even a lightweight jacket. And because they're magnetic, you can move them around as much as you want. No sticky residue, no worrying about whether the cruise line is going to charge you for wall damage. Just instant, flexible storage wherever you need it. Here's a real story. I was walking the hallways one afternoon during embarkation when I heard a woman in her early 70s talking to her husband. She said, "Where am I supposed to put my purse? There's nowhere to hang anything." I knocked on the door, introduced myself, and handed them a set of magnetic hooks I kept in my pocket for exactly these moments. 5 minutes later, she had her purse hanging by the bathroom mirror, her husband's cap near the door, and their reusable water bottles clipped to the wall by the bed. She looked at me and said, "Why doesn't the cruise line tell people about this?" Great question, and honestly, I don't know. But now you know. The best part about magnetic hooks is that they're incredibly cheap. You can find a 10-pack online for less than $8. Throw them in your suitcase and you'll wonder how you ever cruised without them. Coming up in just a moment, I'll tell you about the one item that eliminates the biggest source of cabin clutter. And it's something you probably already own. But first, let's talk about number 3, packing cubes. If you've never used packing cubes before, let me put it this way. They're the difference between living out of a suitcase and living in an organized home. Packing cubes are small zippered fabric containers that help you compress and categorize your clothes. One cube for shirts, one for pants, one for undergarments, and so on. And here's why they matter so much on a cruise. Most passengers, especially those over 60, tend to overpack. You're going to be gone for a week, maybe 2, and you want to be prepared for every possible scenario. Formal night, casual day, beach day, chilly evening. Before you know it, you've packed enough clothes for a month. And when you get to the cabin and open that suitcase, it's overwhelming. You don't know where anything is, and you certainly don't have room to put it all away. But with packing cubes, everything stays contained and compressed. You can stack them neatly in the closet, slide them into drawers, or even leave a few in your suitcase under the bed. And when you need something, you just pull out the relevant cube, grab what you need, and zip it back up. No more rummaging, no more mess. I once helped a solo traveler in her mid-60s who was on her first cruise. She'd packed 2 huge suitcases and had no idea how she was going to fit everything in her tiny inside cabin. I showed her how packing cubes worked, and she immediately repacked right there on embarkation day. By the time she was done, one suitcase stayed mostly packed and slid under the bed, and the other was neatly organized in the closet. She told me at the end of the cruise it was the best packing tip she'd ever received. You can find a set of 4 or 5 packing cubes for around $15. That's less than the cost of one drink at the bar, and the value they bring to your trip is absolutely priceless. Now here's number 4, and this is the one that passengers always forget until it's too late: a collapsible laundry bag or hamper. Dirty clothes pile up fast on a cruise, especially if you're someone who likes to change outfits for dinner, or if you're spending time at the pool and gym. And where do most people put those dirty clothes? On the floor, on a chair, stuffed in a corner of the closet? It creates instant clutter and makes the whole cabin feel smaller and messier than it actually is. A collapsible laundry bag solves this problem completely. You can hang it on a magnetic hook, tuck it in the closet, or even hang it on the back of the bathroom door. As soon as you take off a piece of clothing, it goes straight into the bag. Out of sight, out of mind, and your cabin stays clean and spacious. This is especially helpful for travelers who are on longer cruises or who plan to use the ship's laundry service. You already have a designated spot for dirty items, and when it's time to send them out or pack them up at the end of the trip, everything's in one place. No last-minute scrambling, no forgotten socks under the bed. One passenger I'll never forget was a retired teacher in her early 70s traveling with her husband. They were on a 14-day cruise, and by day 3, their cabin looked like a laundromat exploded. Clothes everywhere. She was embarrassed and frustrated. I suggested a simple mesh laundry bag, the kind that folds flat and has a drawstring. She picked one up at the ship's shop for $12, and the difference was immediate. She even wrote me a thank you note at the end of the cruise, saying it was the best money she'd spent on board. You can find these bags for as little as $6 or $7 online, and they weigh almost nothing, so there's no reason not to pack one. All right, we're halfway through the list, and if you're finding this helpful, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps more cruisers discover these tips. And stick around, because number 7 is the one trick that even experienced cruisers miss, and it's an absolute game changer. Now let's talk about number 5, and this one's all about keeping your electronics organized: a charging station or multi-port USB hub. If you're like most travelers, you're bringing at least 3 or 4 devices: your phone, maybe a tablet, a smartwatch, possibly a camera or e-reader. And every single one of those devices needs to be charged, usually at the same time, right before bed. But here's the problem. Most cruise cabins only have 2 outlets, and they're usually in the most inconvenient spots. One's by the desk, the other's near the bathroom mirror. You end up with charging cables stretched across the room, devices scattered everywhere, and a constant fear that something's going to fall and break. A small charging station with multiple USB ports changes everything. You plug it into one outlet, and suddenly you can charge 4 or 5 devices at once, all in the same spot. No more cable chaos, no more hunting for your phone in the middle of the night. Everything's organized, everything's charging, and your cabin actually looks like a place where adults live instead of a teenager's bedroom. I worked with a guest services team, and one of the most common complaints we'd hear was, there aren't enough outlets in the room. Technically, that's true, but the real issue isn't the number of outlets, it's how people are using them. One USB charging hub eliminates the problem entirely, and you can pick one up for under $12. Here's a quick story. A couple in their mid-60s came to the guest services desk visibly annoyed. They'd tried using a power strip with a surge protector, which is banned on ships for safety reasons, and security had confiscated it. They didn't understand why, and now they couldn't charge anything. I handed them a simple USB hub, explained how it worked, and within an hour they were back at the desk, all smiles, asking where they could buy one to take home. That's how much of a difference it makes. Number 6 is something you might not think you need, but trust me, you'll use it every single day: a small clip-on reading light or headlamp. Cruise cabins, especially inside cabins, can be incredibly dark. There's usually one overhead light and maybe a small lamp by the bed. That's it. And if you're traveling with a partner who likes to sleep while you're still reading or getting ready, you're stuck. You either wake them up with a bright overhead light, or you fumble around in the dark trying not to trip over your own suitcase. A clip-on reading light solves this beautifully. You can attach it to your book, to the headboard, even to the bathroom mirror. It gives you focused light exactly where you need it without disturbing anyone else. And if you go for a small headlamp instead, you've got hands-free light for those moments when you're digging through a drawer or looking for something in the closet. I can't tell you how many times I saw passengers struggling with this exact issue. One gentleman in his early 70s told me he'd been waking his wife up every night for the first 3 nights of their cruise because he couldn't see well enough to find his medication in the dark. I lent him a small LED clip light I kept in my bag, and he used it the rest of the trip. At the end, he bought 2 of his own to keep at home. They cost about $7, and they're one of those things you don't realize you need until you have one. And now we've arrived at number 7, the one item that pulls everything together and makes your cabin feel twice as big as it actually is: a hanging toiletry bag. Bathroom counter space on a cruise ship is almost non-existent. You've got a small ledge around the sink, maybe 6 inches deep, and that's supposed to hold your toothbrush, toothpaste, face wash, medications, makeup, shaving kit, and everything else you need to get ready each day. It doesn't work. Things fall into the sink, roll onto the floor, or just create a cluttered mess that makes the whole bathroom feel cramped and chaotic. A hanging toiletry bag is the ultimate solution. It has multiple compartments, it hangs from a hook or towel bar, and it keeps absolutely everything visible and accessible. You unzip it once when you arrive, hang it up, and you're done. No more unpacking toiletries onto a tiny counter. No more knocking things over every time you wash your hands. Everything you need is right there, organized, off the counter, and easy to grab. This is especially helpful for travelers who take multiple medications or have a detailed skincare routine. Instead of lining up 10 bottles on a wet counter, you've got them neatly stored in labeled pockets, completely dry and easy to find. I worked with a woman in her late 60s who'd been cruising for years and always complained about the bathroom situation. She'd tried baskets, she'd tried Ziploc bags, nothing worked. I recommended a hanging toiletry bag, and she ordered one before her next cruise. She sent me an email afterward saying it was the single best upgrade she'd ever made to her packing routine. She said, "I don't know why I suffered for so long when the solution was this simple." And that's exactly the point. Sometimes the smallest changes make the biggest difference. You can find a high-quality hanging toiletry bag for around $15. Look for one with clear pockets so you can see what's inside, and make sure it has a sturdy hook that can hang from a towel bar or a magnetic hook. So there you have it, 7 items, total cost under $50, and every single one of them will make your cruise cabin feel more spacious, more organized, and infinitely more comfortable. You don't need to spend thousands on a bigger room. You just need to be smart about the space you already have. If you found this helpful, give it a like and subscribe for more insider cruise tips. Drop a comment and let me know which of these 7 items you're most excited to try. And if you've got your own clever cabin hack, share it below because I'd love to hear what's working for you. Until next time, sail smart and enjoy every moment of your cruise.